Welcome to this week's Market Minute. If you've been to the gas pump lately, you have seen and felt the spike in gas prices lately, and news headlines may have you concerned we could be potentially headed into another oil and gas crisis. So today we're going to take a look at further context to help ease some of those concerns. The recent spike in oil prices has been due to the conflict in Iran and specifically the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the global oil supply moves through this strait on a daily basis, and so that impact to supply has caused this global spike in oil prices. Today, the U.S. is in a much different situation than we have been historically. Today, the U.S. is actually the largest producer of oil in the world. So we're going to take a look at some data here to help illustrate those differences. So if we look back here in the 1970s when we had the oil and gas crisis, you can see here this red line is U.S. exports of oil and the gray line is U.S. imports of oil. So back in the 70s, we were heavily dependent on oil supply from the Middle East in order for the U.S. economy to really function. If you go to the far right of this chart where we're at today, over the last 5 years, we have become a net exporter of oil. So we are now exporting more oil than we are importing, and because of this significantly increased production in the US of oil, we're now much more sheltered from global supply issues than we ever have been in the past. So while elevated prices at the gas pump are not fun to deal with and certainly will be a bit of a headwind to the U.S. economy, they are more of a geopolitical issue than they are an underlying economic issue within the U.S. In fact, if you've got a well-diversified portfolio, you even have exposure to energy companies, for instance, that will be positively impacted by increased gas prices to their bottom line. So while you may end up having to pay more at the gas pump for a period of time, your portfolio could be positively impacted in part due to some of that diversification. So anyway, if you've got any questions for us and our team, questions about your portfolio, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're always happy to chat. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.